Welcome back to Echoes of the Timeless Truth. Today we are joined once again by Kevin Zephaniah, the author, philosopher, and visionary, as we continue to explore his life's journey and the timeless wisdom he shares. Today we will take a deeper dive into the principles that have shaped his work and his perspectives on the world. Kevin's words challenge us to think beyond the surface and embrace a deeper understanding of who we are and who we can become. As a reminder, this is episode 3 in our series of interviews with Kevin Zephaniah. If you are meeting Kevin for the first time, we encourage you to go back and listen to episodes 1 and 2, where we really set the tone for the experiences in Kevin's life that have shaped who he is today and the author he has become. Kevin, welcome back. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. I appreciate you. I've already learned so much from you in our previous 2 conversations. So I'm curious what we will learn today. Your work, it often emphasizes the importance of looking inward in order to find the truth. I'd like for you to start us off today with a time when you were searching for personal truth and it led you to question some of the beliefs or the systems that you had once accepted without any doubt, and what that was like.
Well, as I said before, and I said, I was a very inquisitive person. I like to ask questions regardless. But I think the starting point for me was I refer to the death of my grandmother a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I hear a lot of people ask me about it, but it's really what happened after. You know what I mean? It's after her passing, after she is gone, you start to see things not only in a different light, but the way that life responds to you at that time seems different. It begins to open up your eyes, like that you never really used to notice before tends to happen. So from the time that my grandmother passed to my to when I got married to my wife, that period of time, um, it elapsed a couple years from 5 to 9. So I would say about 4 years time. 4 years time was almost like an awakening. Like there has to be something more than this. And I mean, there are things that you hear, that you see, but the only person that stood between where I was at and where I wanted to go was there, and that person had passed. And that transition is what opened up my eyes to the way that people responded, to the way that they behaved, they acted. And you start to realize that some of these people are just reacting to circumstances rather than being conscious of the decisions that they're making. Some of them don't even realize, not until years down the road, what decisions they've taken. So the pivotal moment was from the passing of my grandmother to the beginning of my marriage. So from 2005 to 2009, that period of time span, I retreated into inquisitiveness, a deeper inquisitiveness. I began to question not just the purpose of life, but really what was the substance that was surrounding me. If that makes sense, the substance. What is it that was around me? Imagine you're in a pool of water and you're trying to get out of that pool of water, but you're looking for something to grab onto to get out of that pool of water because the water's too deep for you and you cannot swim. So you're looking for something substantial to hold on to move forward. And I described that for a 4-year period that a lot of people didn't understand at that time. I questioned parenting. I questioned government. I questioned marriage. I questioned life. I questioned education. I questioned all of these things during that time span. And it allowed me to look at things from different angles.
Hmm.
And in looking in different angles, I discovered that there were more questions that I had, and the people that I wanted to ask them to were not yet equipped, in my eyes, to satisfy the hunger that was inside of me.
Hmm.
So 4 years time.
Yeah. Sounds like a big chapter of your life. And that can be so unsettling when someone you have typically turned to for wisdom leads you, and you are left with an absence, and you are left with, I guess, yourself. And it was the moment where you realized, okay, if she isn't here, then the only thing that's really left and guaranteed is me. And so you went inwards for the answers instead of always going to her. That's very powerful.
Yes.
Hmm. We refer to ancient wisdom in our conversations often. And then we do the juxtaposition of ancient wisdom and modern life, especially that a lot of your content and your book is geared towards the next generation. You've shared with me, it started as text messages to your children, and you imagine writing your ancient wisdom for the generation of tomorrow. So, with all of that in mind, how are you adapting your teachings for a rapidly changing world and knowing that there's a future that isn't created yet, that you want this wisdom to be evergreen and last well beyond yourself? How are you doing that?
Um, Part of that has to do with reflection, right?
Okay.
Conscious reflection. Like I make it my duty to understand what exactly I'm hearing, seeing. Yes, you hear sound, but it comes with emotion. It comes with a frequency of enlightenment, or it comes with something that you can wrap your heads around and formulate it into your own understanding. So I have 4 children for now, right? Um, and my grandmother has passed, my mentor has passed, people that are important to me has passed, but they're not gone. They're not gone. As a matter of fact, they're still with us, right? How are they with us? By the things that they said to us. These words,
Mm,
these memories, they carry a volume of education within it. And that volume of education within it allows me to reflect on the teachings they've given to me from person to person, from day to day, from hour to hour. Start to realize that there's a trend that happens. And that trend, it's directly connected to who you are as a person. These teachers were fit for me and I was fit for my teacher. So these things I hold on and I reflect consciously, daily, consistently, but I'm conscious, right?
mm,
I'm conscious. So when I'm sitting here making breakfast, I'm not just running through it. I know what I'm doing. I know why I'm doing it. I understand why it's important. And I think too many of us are so much in a hurry. We're in a hurry that
mm,
we're no longer ourselves anymore. It's like a person that has a shadow. We run and we left our shadow behind, and that our shadow's following us. But not until we stand still does the shadow stand still. And when you look at the shadow and the shadow looks at you, then you start to understand, why is he here? And then you begin to go, why am I here? And then you begin to ask those questions. So balancing between ancient wisdom and our modern day
mhm,
has a lot to do with my reflection. I reflect morning, afternoon, and evening about what's going on. I'm not ignorant of what it is. I know that before a day I must prepare for it. At the end of a day, I must prepare for it. While I'm within that day, there are things that I could accept and there are things that I could reject, but it's entirely up to me.
mm, hmm. Do you ever find yourself torn? Like, is there ever a time when you really feel like the ancient truths that you believe, they are in conflict with where you see the world going and some of the modern urgencies of today?
Most definitely. There will always be a conflict. And that conflict is what opens your eyes, right? You cannot have enlightenment without conflict.
Mm,
We often avoid conflict, but conflict is what enlightens us.
mm,
Because when you begin to reflect of what is true, everything around you will collide with you. It's like a child. I refer to that analogy where I said, when my child came into the world was waiting for you to get here, right? So you as a parent, if you lack the understanding of to understand what that child is telling you, you're going to seek someone else to educate you that either has had a child before or you've gone to a doctor to understand that child. Um, that's very similar to what exactly is going on in our lives, right? We have a language that we came into this world with. That language is a language that the world has become disconnected from. Not because they're ignorant from it, but they've become disconnected from it because of the evolvement of what's going on in our society. Now, that language we find to be unique, we find to be very specifically catered to who you are as a person. And that language has a lot to do with your identity. The way that a child communicates with their mother, the way that a son communicates with their father, it's not the same as the communication that happens with me and Sam or with me and somebody else. But it is through that language that we have with our immediate loved ones that reveal to us how we ought to really communicate with others.
mm. Yeah, I really appreciated what you said about how conflict is part of the process and how so often we're scared of that. And we're scared of contrarian views or opinions or things that might make us feel uncomfortable. But really within that conflict and that uncomfortability is the enlightenment, is the insight, is that clarity. And it's part of the process for you.
Yes, I can't stress it enough because you oftentimes you're as a child, you go to school and you find it difficult to make friends. And you and your friend have a disagreement at that time. Now, disagreements come and go throughout this life, but understanding the purpose behind that disagreement helps shed a light as to who that person is, who you are, and where you both are in life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. 100%. You often speak about reclaiming our inherent power and not living based upon the roles that life has given us or assigned us. And in our previous conversation, you've shared several of the roles that were given to you by society, some that you've released, some that you've learned to embrace and love about yourself and reframe.
Yeah.
What would you say, though, to somebody who isn't empowered by these roles, who truly feels trapped in the roles or the identities that they've been given and they don't know how to break free and discover their true power? What would you tell that person?
Um, so many people and within its entirety has a lot to do with identity. Um, and I say freedom and identity are specifically what is necessary, right? So freedom, identity. You can't have identity without freedom. Once you understand who you are already free. And because you are free, therefore you obtain freedom. And as you obtain freedom through the understanding of who you are and embracing who you are, understanding that I can move right, I can move left, I have strength, I have might, I have a voice, I have an expression. When you begin to express those things, then we talk about that conflict, right? Then conflict begins to rise. Now, that conflict that rises is not has nothing to do with people that want to combat with you, has everything to do with I'm here, I'm a system. I'm responsible for making sure that you go this way. But when you begin to respond to that system We said, no, you're supposed to go this way. Then you begin to understand, do I go according to this system, or do I embrace what I'm experiencing? Do I continue to rise? Do I continue to express myself holistically? Do I continue to embrace my individuality? Do I continue to embrace the language that I know that's inside of me that wants to come out? And can I speak to Sam with integrity? Can I speak to Sam holistically? Can I speak with Sam with from a place that is not just the seat where I'm sitting from, but from a place that is long ago, that my mother and my father, my grandparents taught me, that I can communicate with her to the point where she understands that it's impactful, that it's meaningful.
Hmm. Okay. And it really, I find when you use the word freedom, like I really think there's power in the freedom to be yourself. And that is something that you've shared with me and shared some wisdom with me that I've really sat with and thought about after our conversations, and how much power there is in that, and the freedom of just really your authenticity and being who you are. And so, yeah, if you're feeling trapped in that, what I'm hearing is actually like lean into that role and identity more versus feeling a victim.
Yes. Yes. It's because no matter what happens, is that where you are right now is designed to do exactly what it's doing.
Mhm.
And to have something different, to have something outside of that, if there's a hunger for that, that's the first inclination to freedom. But
Mhm.
until you embrace that and understanding where you are is, I've once heard this before. I said, I'm not locked in the prison cell, but the prisoners are locked in here with me. Once you understand that, the prison cell no longer becomes the prison cell, but it becomes a white canvas for you to paint whatsoever you choose.
Mm. Yeah, and so much of your upcoming book, Unapologetic, encourages readers to live without apology. How can someone embrace their authentic spiritual self without feeling that fear or shame when they really do feel misunderstood by the world around them?
Wow. Um, it's funny being unapologetic. When I wrote that book, is just it weighed heavily upon me. But the way that unapologetic relates to our present people, and its understanding of it, to be unapologetic has nothing to do with fighting, has nothing to do with quarreling, but it's to respect yourself enough to respect another, to respond with the integrity that that holds you, that keeps you. It has nothing to do with combat, but it has everything to do with you understanding who you are. And once you have begun to understand who you are, then you begin to express yourself. So that combat that we're talking about, it becomes easy to walk through it because you understand who you are. That's what I mean by being unapologetic, right? It's walking with your head held up high, irrespective of the circumstance, irrespective of the trials and tribulations you find yourself encountering. Remember, it's not happening to you, but it's happening for you. It's happening to bring attention to who you really are and what you're capable of, the strength that is inside of you, the power that you have to express, to talk, to walk, to behave, to create, to imagine, to express.
Mhm. Yep, 100%. And, you've done such a great job of this. You've truly carved your own path. You have freed yourself from the narrative society often imposes on individuals. How are you able to maintain that confidence and clarity when, I'm guessing, other people in the world try to pull you back into their own definitions of success sometime, or their ways of correct living? How do you maintain that state of power and freedom and confidence and doing things your own way?
doing things my own way, just a little defiant, right? As a little defiant child, that it's like you tell him one thing, he does another, no matter what. Um, I wasn't always like this. I was a young man that it was free of all blemishes, and my record is clean and things of that sort, and walking, just following all of the rules, dotting the i's and crossing the t's, that individual. But there came a time where I came to understand that being myself doesn't necessarily mean that you have to do everything that everyone is asking of you or doing. You don't have to dance the same way that everybody else is dancing. You don't have to talk the same way that everybody else is talking, because there's something inside of you. So how do I balance that? How do I bring them together? What's the balance between the two? Has everything to do with, again, understanding, right? But I have to find the balance of understanding that everyone has a right to speak, and just because they have a right to speak doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be true, doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be factual.
Mm.
I mean, I sit here and I think about politicians, for example, right? Now, politicians sit in an office and they speak and they speak and they speak. And you are behind the screen and you're thinking, do these people fear? Do these people ever show fear? Or do they is there anxiety in them? Is there worry in them? And sometimes we forget that. So I always imagine that everyone has the same struggles that I go through, and it's okay. So finding the balance between the two has everything to do with understanding that the words that come from outside of me and the words that come out of me are from two different channels. So every day when I go to work and I meet people in my workplace, I understand that they're talking, but that means I'm listening. While I'm listening, if I'm listening, I'm not talking, I'm listening. And dividing the two helps me to find the balance between the two, understanding that every individual is an individual. That means there's a person in front of me, and that person that's in front of me requires my attention. That means we're on a seesaw at that time, right? We're balancing, we're jumping on a seesaw. So one goes up, the other one goes down. One goes up, the other one goes down. But we're playing a nice game. And we need to understand that that balance that we're looking for has a lot to do with respect, has a lot to do with respect of individuality, respecting time, respecting space, respecting the very ground that you walk upon. You can't have balance without respect.
Hmm. I appreciated what you said about active listening. As someone who interviews people for a living, I know how important it is to listen to what they're saying versus just getting so excited about what I have to say next, or my next question, or my opinion, that you stop listening to what the other person is saying. That is a very practical example for my profession. But if I'm not careful about that in my real life, then I'm missing out on opportunities to learn from other people. The con with that, the catch, is if you are listening so much to other people, you can start to question, what are your thoughts? What are your true beliefs?
Mhm.
What advice would you give to someone to help them identify whether the thoughts and beliefs they have are truly their own, or if they have accidentally been maybe listening too much to other people, the dark side of listening?
Well, I example, this is practical experience. I work in a place. As I work in a place, a manager approaches me. That manager approaches me. He has a conversation with me. That conversation that he has with me, I'm listening to that conversation. But I also know all the other managers that are there. So while I'm listening to that manager, I start to realize the trend between his communication with me and the trend with the other managers' communication. But the only reason I'm able to understand that is because of my ability to listen. So I use that as an example because when I look at the television and listen to one person speak and I listen to another person speak, and you can almost feel through that television screen or through that speech what this person has committed to owning versus committed to saying. And that commitment, that whatever they've committed to, is what is expressed through their speech, through their actions and behavior. That's what we're talking about, that language that we were born with, right? I keep referring to that because we have a language that is unique. Ancient wisdom doesn't mean that it's old and forgotten. This is something that has always been here, but we've become disconnected from it. That's that inside strand that's inside of us. That's like your DNA. That's there. That's expressly expressing itself in your day-to-day experiences with another individual. I speak to 5 or 6 people in the same workplace, but yet one person speaks to me, but that person doesn't know who they are. That person that person is just reciting something because of their emotion at that time. So you feel fear, so you begin to recite something based on the database of fear. Imagine you have a computer, you go into that computer, and the title of that says fear. Let me pull that and download this here. That's what it is. I say, let me play this right here. That's all that it is. If you have fear, if you have anxiety, but all these things have been programmed inside of us, right? And many people don't understand that. So understanding the difference has everything to do with commitment and ownership. So what a person really believes and they commit to might be 10 to 13 words out of their whole story that they're telling you. For example, so you got to be listening because these people have chosen words in there. That's why you have psychoanalysts, psychologists that sit there and active listener. Professor Capolino, I remember in my English class, I'll never forget that name. He taught me about communications 101. I'll never forget that. And he said, if you're listening to respond, you're not listening.
Yep.
If you're listening with a response in your mind, with a strategy in place, you're not listening.
And I love that you still remember that teacher's name. It just shows how much of an impact they made on you and how much you were listening to them.
Yes.
I love that you mention fear because fear is something we all experience, and you talk about it in your book and how it can be a tool for growth. Tell us a little bit about your relationship with fear and how it's evolved over the years, and really consider someone who today might be struggling with fear and it's holding them back from their true potential.
Fear itself, it will do nothing for you but keep you where you are. Fear, uh, the Christian terminology or the Christian how can I put a definition of it? They said fear is a substance of things hoped for. Faith is a substance of things hoped for and things not yet seen. But fear is an imagination that you have, an illusion that you have, that is in your mind, that is created, and it's like a world within a world that you're living in, not knowing if these things are going to come to pass, but you're living inside of it. You're living in the perception that this bad thing is going to happen. That doesn't mean it's going to happen, but because it is an illusion in your mind that it can happen and will happen, frightens you, prevents you from walking this way instead of going that way. You know what I mean? So living my evolution of fear has grown drastically. I've never been one that can say that I was not afraid of fear. No. As a young man, I was very much afraid. And my fear came out in the form of anger. That's how my fear came out. And it comes out in anger in most people. Like you having conversation with a person and they start yelling, and you don't understand why their voice is raising, but at some point they're yelling at you, and you're thinking that that, well, this person's just mad. No, this person is afraid to really analyze certain aspects of themselves, or not comfortable feeling vulnerable enough with you at that time, that it reflects, it comes out as fear. You know what I mean? So my evolution of fear over the years has grown. And I said it has grown because I no longer get as upset as I used to be. I no longer I'm afraid of the outcomes that could possibly be detrimental to me. I understand that things just happen. When I say things just happen, there are things that seem to be good, and there are things that that are perceived to be bad. But these things are both equally your teacher. They're equally here to educate you. And the more you understand about what it is that you fear, or why you fear it, the more you begin to understand about yourself. So I experienced a traumatic experience probably like 8 or 9 years ago. I won't share that yet, but nonetheless, when I experienced it, I remained quiet about that specific thing for about 7 or 8 years, but I reflected on it. And then while I was reflecting on it, I came to realize that you need to revisit that circumstance, and you need to allow for people to see you lean into it. Because that fear that you have, and I tell my children this all the time. Um, you're sitting here and you're telling me that you're afraid of the dark, but it's what you think could happen in the dark that you're afraid of, not the darkness itself. And so I say that because whatever the trauma is, you have to face it. Whatever the thing that frightens you in your mind is, you're gonna have to understand why you are afraid of it, understand what is giving to you, and understand what is taking from you, and understand what you're willing to give up.
Hmm. You mentioned there's a story that it sounds like it'll come in a future episode. We're not ready to share it now, but I would be curious if you're open to sharing something that you're fearful of,
Ah,
something that you are working through yourself right now.
yes, yes. So I would say losing myself. I'm afraid of losing who I am, not evolving, but losing myself, meaning losing the quality of integrity, the potency of transparency, the the eloquence of truth. I fear losing myself along this journey. Yes, I want to give to many people, but I don't want to lose myself. I want you to see who I am, but I don't want to lose myself. And I think that is probably the biggest challenge that I would say that I have. Because no matter what you give to a person, they're always going to want more. They're always going to want more. But the question is, who's really worthy of more? I'm giving to you, but are you worthy of it? Are you ready for it? Are you ready to see the inner chambers that will allow you to weather the storms of life with triumph, with victory, with grace? Are you ready for it? Because I'm gonna be me. Question is, are you gonna be you?
Hmm. I love that, and I put you on the spot with that one, so thanks for answering. I knew we'd have some great wisdom for that. So the fear of losing yourself, I think that is so real, and it really alludes to the next question that I have for you, which is all about the paradoxes of life. We talked about one where you want to be a great listener, but not listen so much that you forget which thoughts are your own. We need to have both solitude in life, but we also need connection. There's the tension between being unapologetic, but also about being compassionate.
Yes.
What wisdom can be found in that balance of those contradictions?
Sometimes we think being disconnected is to be absent. But I found that my solitude really connected me more. It connected me to the men and women of our society because, yes, I may be it may appear that I'm disconnected or distanced from them, but I understand them more now. And when I speak to them, it's like, wow, where were you? Where have you been this whole time? Why didn't I why didn't I hear you before? Would you have heard me before if we were not disconnected for a little bit? So that solitude, that disconnect, that silence, they speak louder than people think. That disconnection, there's more connection in it than people realize. But we're too afraid, right? That's why I said I'm afraid to lose myself. We're too afraid, too afraid to put down that phone, too afraid to walk away from certain relationships, too afraid to say, you know what? Forget this. Too afraid to turn off the TV, too afraid to stop reading a book or opening a book, too afraid. And that fear is what's keeping us, right? So when we balance that connection, once you disconnect, you'll realize how connected you are.
Hmm.
You'll start to realize that even the people that have passed you still carry that memory. You still carry their teachings, their inscriptions inside of you. Once you disconnect from those family members, you'll start to realize how much you see, how much more you hear. Not with the intent to combat, but not with the intent to defraud or the intent to manipulate, but the intent to truly understand. Once you have disconnected, you will begin to understand. You begin to blossom and bloom. And when you do speak to someone, they will get others to come listen to you because you are now connected.
Mm, so good. I have one more question I'm going to sneak in today, Kevin, because I want to leave something for our future episodes. And again, if you didn't listen to episode 1 and 2 with Kevin and I, please go back. He shared even more wisdom that I'm sure you're nodding along and receiving today. There's more. So, final question, Kevin. When you think about the legacy of your life's work, what do you hope is carried forward beyond the words and the amazing books you put into the world and left us with?
I hope they carry the roadmap, not the destination. I hope they carry the roadmap. I hope they carry philosophies and teachings, but I hope they carry the willingness to discover oneself, the willingness to embrace the past, the present, and the future collectively. I just hope, I pray that, yes, I may have what I have, but that doesn't mean you're not going to go further. To go further doesn't mean that I've been left behind. I understand that. I appreciate that. It's to know that we are along the journey. I know that my time will come and that your time must equally come. So I take pleasure in knowing that you will discover new heights about yourself, about our society, about knowledge and wisdom, and you will see how potentful your impact will be.
I love that. I believe it. I can see that for you, Kevin. Thank you so much. As always, this conversation has been deeply inspiring, thought-provoking, all of the things. Thank you, everyone who joined us for today's episode of Echoes of the Timeless Truth. Kevin, your insights are truly transformative. To our listeners, we hope you carry these timeless lessons with you as you continue on your own journeys. And we'll see you next time for some more wisdom and inspiration. Thank you so much, Kevin.
Thank you, Sam.